The last part is the composter and hauler experience, and it's going to be maybe a little bit more conversational. Frank does have a few slides to talk about preparing for compost facility financing, and then we'll just jump into some conversations here with Noel, Justin, Noel with Migo Compost, Justin with Compost Now. I will pass it on to Frank.
So appreciate you inviting me to speak. And I have to give major kudos to Kat and Muriel and Jorge and the board of directors over the years, how far this state chapter has come. When we used to meet in a phone booth. So now you have enough money to rent a classroom and hire people, and that's great. I mean, it's fantastic. So kudos. The other thing to mention is Jorge is the founder of Sustainable Spirits. February, I was out in Sacramento. I did a half-day workshop with Jared Bond, and Jared is a wizard with. And I talked a little bit more about kind of the basic stuff. You heard a lot of stuff in the last panel, like, how do you prepare for this stuff? Just through experience, I designed, built, and ran 2 different facilities here in North Carolina over the years. And a lot of things have happened, a lot of positive change in even having something like this that didn't exist, right? No, we were pioneers. We took a lot of arrows in our backs, but now it's good to share that information with you all. And hopefully it makes you better, and we all have to be better business people. I think that's the main thing. The other thing is, you saw today, lenders don't understand our business. It's up to us to be able to really explain to them. And, where does that all start? Timeline. I'm speaking here about startups, people that are just getting into the business. Say you're a hauler and now you want to look at building a facility, or you're already in the process. There's a timeline that you have to think about. And that timeline, in some states, it could be a short period of time. Usually the first part of that is the business planning, having that available. And then you have to go sit down with Lauren and talk about permit to construct. There's a list of stuff that you need to provide for that. That takes some time. There's some engineering that's involved in that. In line. And then once you get the permit to construct and they come out and inspect your facility, and then you get a permit to operate, but you also have to put together a pretty major package for that permit to operate. So that timeline in some states, in California, it's 7 years. Here in North Carolina, it could probably be as short as a year. In some states don't even have regulations. So you want to go to Alabama, you can.
I'll just say to that, like as part of us at Deeks, over there, we have a permit assistance team that you can get with, and they will let you know all the permits you're going to need for your business, and also kind of help you walk through what order to do them in, so that you're doing them at the right time, and try to streamline it as much as you can. Also, that way, something surprise doesn't pop up on you and set you back.
That's great. That's great that exists. Yeah, so just to understand, there is a timeline. You got to be thinking about what revenue you're going to be bringing in during that timeline. Obviously, if you're a hauler, you already have kind of a track record. You have some revenue coming in, and you build a facility. That may be a different scenario, kind of a stepping stone scenario. So understanding your market, that's the first thing you need to look at. Your surrounding market. What kind of feedstocks are out there? What are people paying for those feedstocks to be tipped? And then what is your finished product compost market? That's important also. Understanding that composting and compost is both a service and a product. It's kind of an interesting business that we're in, is that we're taking someone's byproducts, and that is our raw materials, to make a finished product that is used all throughout agriculture and landscaping and other projects. So that's hard to explain to people, because most businesses, they're paying for their raw materials and they're making a product. But I think the thing that's important to mention is you have to look at composting as a manufacturing process. The microbes are the ones that are doing the hard work along with your workers, but it is definitely a biological process. But it takes mechanized equipment. It takes people to actually make it happen. The person that said compost happens should be shot, because it happens, but it happens slowly, and then you got to make it. So just understanding that, to provide a brief summary of kind of what's going on in your area, in your marketplace. They're going to want to see that. Lenders are going to want to see that. We talked a little bit about the North American Industry Classification Code, which is a code that it's called, the short name for that is NAICS code 325315. is the code, and that's for compost manufacturing. The problem is it's still under chemical. We moved it from fertilizing, it was fertilizer mixing, to its own category. So that's important when you look at businesses. Banks and lenders are going to want to look at that if there's data out there. Some people are using that, some people are not using it. We encourage more people to use that so we can track the data and track the industry data. It's also important for zoning. It's important for your liability insurance, your workman's compensation insurance, OSHA requirements. So these are all important things to know about that. So what you have to do is sit down and really do some market research. And there's two types of market research. You want to do your feedstock research, and you also want to do your finished product research. And these are just bullet points of things that you're going to need to really research on your own. Thank God for ChatGPT. Okay, that didn't exist when we first started, businesses, 20 years ago, because you can get a lot of this information on the internet, which is great, but you also need to put it in a format that you are able to look at it. You got to start with your feedstocks. That's kind of where you're building your business. Again, if you're a hauler, you already know some of that. The other part is, the carbon part is looking at where you're going to get your carbon as well. Kind of documents that you could look at. I'm not going to go through all these, but being able to look at this from your county level, your 50-mile radius level, looking at getting letters of intent from if you're talking to a supermarket chain or something, and they say, yeah, we're generating, 5,000 tons of produce waste annually from these 5 stores, and we're landfilling it now, and it's costing us $50 a ton to landfill it. If you go to them and say, okay, I'm going to build a facility here, it's going to be closer to your 5 stores, would you sign a letter of intent saying that if this were to be built, you would consider bringing this material and set a price on what you think that price should be. Look at haulers in your area. There's probably haulers that are hauling organic waste now. Make sure you talk to them, because they may have an opportunity to bring material to you as well. The great thing about haulers is they do a lot of pre-sorting of contaminants, which is a great thing to do when you're tipping it on the floor at your facility, is having someone doing some pre-screening. Finished compost, kind of the same thing. Look at your market. What's in your area? Do you have competitors in your area? Where are they buying? Are you going to sell both wholesale and retail? That's important to know. Are you going to blend product? And then what's the quality of products? The fact that you are a compost manufacturer, you need a quality control, quality assurance plan when you're manufacturing compost. It's a manufacturing process. So you need to know how that compost is, what's the makeup of that compost, and that takes testing. The USCC has the SEAL testing assurance program. That's one thing that you could look into as well. But again, if you're in a startup phase, you don't have product to test. So there's a lot of assumptions that you have to make. Kind of documents that they're going to want to see, the potential markets that you're going to sell into, the volumes of those markets, looking at, again, a list of competitors, what's the pricing, both wholesale and retail, and again, what's the quality of that compost. That all goes into a business plan. Okay, when you do your market research on your feedstock and on your finished product, you start building a business plan. And again, business plans are pretty standard. There's a template. I think the USCC with this bank loan kit, there's a template in there. You could Google business plan and get 1 million templates on what to work for. But again, you need to make sure you're funneling the right information into that outline that the lender's going to want to see. And they mentioned some things on the last panel as well. Again, executive summary of your business, what do you do, description of your company, organization, and management. And they're going to want to know, who's in your company? Do they have degrees? Are they certified compost operators? They're going to want to know, the products and service that you're selling, your sales strategy, an operational plan, because they're not going to understand how to make compost. So a lot of that could be done in a process flow type diagram. It's probably good to have more graphs, charts, and graphics to explain your business than to have, a lot of verbiage. A financial plan is the big thing. That's what they're going to want to look at, is how they're going to get a return on their investment. And then an appendix that includes a lot of these support documents that you've done along the way. Key deliverables for lenders are looking for credible business plan that's clear, what's the financial credit and the help, both from a personal standpoint. They mentioned that in the last panel discussion. And then your cash flow projections. You see the word skin in the game. That's a big thing. Collateral they mentioned that as well. And use of funds. How are you going to use the funds? The other thing that Jared worked on and on the spreadsheet is best case scenario, worst case scenario, and then kind of probable scenario on your financial modeling. That's important to know because they're going to want to know if you have a down year, if you have a hurricane, if you have an instance where you can't sell product or you have a long winter. Those kind of things they're going to want to see and basically stress test your finances. That's it.